Am I the a-hole for being honest with my cousin? I have two cousins from my Aunt Jane. Kira is 14 and Allison is 11. Kira's always been ostracized in the family and never knew why. The truth is, Aunt Jane slept with her sisters, my Aunt Lulu's husband John, and Kira is the result. The only person truly suffering because of this is Kira. Jane still shows up to all family gatherings. John's still married to Lulu. Lulu don't speak to Jane, but the rest of the family does. But the one person who gets nothing out of the family is Kira. Of 13 cousins, I am the only one cousin who speaks to her. Some of those cousins are Kira's half-siblings, and they know about her. Allison also speaks to her, but they're close. Kira has been left alone and left out of stuff for as long as I can remember. I was told about Kira aged 5 when I asked why she didn't get anything for Christmas. My dad said everyone did it out of respect for Lulu, who was deeply hurt by the affair. Even then, it made no sense to me, but to the rest of my family, that stuff is normal. My grandma's sister turned 93 weeks ago, and we were all at my grandparents' house to celebrate. Yet again, Kira was left out, so I hung out with her and Allison when Allison wasn't being pulled into stuff by Jane. Kira got real upset because some people straight out ignored her when she said hi, and it confused the hell out of her why everybody hated her so much. She said her mom would never tell her anything, and she wished she could know. So I told her. I told her none of it was her fault, but that the adults are horrible, and the family should never have taken it out on her, that nothing that her parents did should have made her suffer. She was broken, but she told me she was glad she knew. She confronted Aunt Jane about it, which is when crap hit the fan. Everyone said I had no right to tell her, that it wasn't my place, and that at 17 I might be young, but I should know better. The worst part, and what makes me feel worse, is her anger made everyone say what a selfish brat she is, and how she should be more understanding of the pain Lulu and Lulu's kids feel. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole at all. You probably lifted a weight off her shoulders. Now she can live her life knowing her family's a bunch of idiots who are blaming her for her mom's mistakes. That family's toxic. I would get out ASAP. She's too young to go anywhere for the next 4 years. My ex-husband ran away from home at 14 years old because his family was toxic. And when authorities tried to send him back, he refused. He told them if they send him back, he'll just keep running away. So they put him into foster care, and his mom had to pay support. My point is, if she feels she can't handle it, there are options, if she's desperate and unhappy enough to take them. Not the a-hole, at all. Your entire family are the a-holes. A child should never have to be punished for their parents' mistakes. How can no one think of the pain they're causing her? They care more about Lulu's pain, and Lulu straight up hates Kira. I've heard her wish Kira dead before. She says the same about Jane, but Kira did nothing to anyone. It's not like she chose to be born, or chose who her parents are. Everyone sucks here. It really wasn't your place to tell her. But for the rest of the family to ignore an innocent child in favor of an adult, they're all a bunch of a-holes. I know. I just wanted to try and make things a little easier for her because I knew she was going to be let in the dark. Next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting sister from wedding and insulting stepmother? For a background, I'm an affair child. My dad was married to Marie and had 3 children. Male 8, male 6, female 4 at the time. After Marie found out about the affair, she was devastated, but stuck by my dad because she loved him. After she found out I was on the way, it was salt in the wound for Marie. She tried to tell my dad it was either his unborn child, me, or her in their relationship. However, she backed down when my dad made it clear he would choose me. I spent time with both my parents, but my dad paid for my other 3 siblings to go to school near him and wanted me to attend too, so I mainly lived with him and Maried my 3 half-siblings. My dad was often away, so Marie sometimes would be taking care of me if it was school time. I always knew Marie didn't like me, even from a young age. She would do things like tuck her kids into bed and leave me out, or take her kids out while I wasn't there, or buy her kids toys and not me. The 3 would always talk about it, and I'd always feel left out. My siblings also didn't like including me in games and stuff, and I believe it was Marie's influence because she'd often tell them I'm not their real sibling, and I think she used to talk bad about my mother to them. Basically, I was the one that shouldn't exist and was treated as such. My dad noticed. It was something him and Marie used to fight about, but my dad always made it up to me. Example, if they all went out without me for ice cream, he would take me for ice cream. If their mother bought them new toys and not me, he would buy me a new toy. My siblings always took this as favoritism, and it further divided us. When I was 17, my dad divorced Marie. My 3 siblings went no contact with our dad, and I didn't really speak to Marie much. Our dad ended up marrying my mother a few years after divorcing Marie. I reached out to my siblings a few years back. The 2 boys said they weren't interested, but Lauren and I have met for coffee a couple times and we get along really well. I've been planning my wedding for a while, and I decided to invite Lauren. And after a positive reaction, I decided as an olive branch to invite Marie and my 2 brothers. I received a nasty message from my brother asking how dare I invite them, knowing our dad and my mother would be there acting as if they didn't rip their family apart. I told him obviously they wouldn't have to talk to them if they came, but I just thought it would be nice to at least give them an invite. He asked what makes me think my wedding is so important that they want an invite, so I just ignored him. Lauren found out about the argument and basically tried convincing me to uninvite my mother and my father, and chose them and the women that raised me, and that my mother and father were a-holes. Told her she can't be serious, and that Marie was a witch to me, and literally resented my existence. Things got heated. Lauren called me an a-hole, and I told her it takes one to know one, and that she can forget about the wedding entirely. Received another nasty paragraph from my brother, and my other brother removed me from Facebook. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole for trying to reach out, but I feel there is more to this story. All the parents here are the worst. Why did your bi dad and mom leave it to your stepmom to be the primary caregiver when they knew she resented you? Were they using stepmom as a free babysitter while bi mom and dad carried on their affair? Your dad went on business trips all the time to see your mom. Seems like dad only left stepmom for your mom when child rearing tasks were done. It's bizarre you didn't live with your bi mom near your dad, so that you could attend a nice school and get regular time with dad. Bio dad and mom are responsible for your childhood trauma as stepmom. They didn't do the minimum to protect and raise you, and you're really letting them off the hook in all this. My dad paid for his other 3 children to go to British private school. He thought it was only fair I went to the same school. My mom lived 30 minutes away from my father's house, and my school was 20 minutes away from my father's house. There was no school bus, and 15 minutes over an hour with traffic is a lot for my mother to drive every day with school. So it was easier for me to just stay at my dad's house because Marie would be dropping the other 3 off anyway. I'm also not sure my dad knew to the extent at the time. He would get mad when she obviously left me out, but the minor but important things he probably didn't realize. They didn't carry on the affair. My dad genuinely had business trips to go on. He didn't see my mother apart from dropping me off sometimes for years. He admitted that he loved my mother, and that he left Marie because she isn't a nice person, in his words. My parents never caused me any trauma. My mother couldn't move closer because she was quite poor, and Marie wouldn't have wanted my dad to help her out. My mother's a really kind person, and so is my dad. Okay, but the responsible and natural thing would have been for your mom to move close to your school and be your primary caregiver. Your stepmom wasn't happy about raising you, but she did it. So I don't see how she could have stopped your dad from financially helping your mom if he really wanted to. Seems like he was doing whatever suited him best regardless of how it affected others. In your original post, you indicate that your dad did know about the problems and that he tried to make it up to you by buying you things. So I think you need to be honest with yourself about his role in your difficult childhood. I'm just saying you have one perspective on this, and if you're not interested in considering the other side, then you should probably just leave stepmom and half-siblings alone. Everyone had a rough go, and the one most to blame is your dad. You posted here for an objective perspective, and based on the info given, your dad is not a nice person. He is a terrible husband and father who ruined a lot of lives with his selfishness. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law I'm not her late sister and she needs to see a therapist? My 19 female sister-in-law's 27 little sister passed away 3 years ago. Though she said she already grieved her death, I think otherwise. She likes to compare anything I do to what her sister did. And sure, 1 or 2 things I'm sure we did alike, but she's taken as far as comparing almost everything I do. The subjects I took in high school, sports I've played, colors I like, the way I decorate my room, even snack/food I like, the way I eat. I've told her, as nicely as I can, if she can let up comparing me to her late sister all the time, because it sort of weirded me out. She did not. When she still continued to do it, I talked to my sister, her wife, and told her to ask her to stop. She didn't. Everyone calls me overdramatic and said I should let her continue as she clearly sees me as a little sister, and that is normal behavior. She's been a lot worse lately since my boyfriend has been over more. She'll make comments like, "My parents would have never allowed my sister to have a boyfriend in her room or spend a night." Or, "You're lucky your boyfriend isn't around me or I'd kick him out." Yesterday, I asked my mom if my boyfriend could stay for dinner, which usually means he'll spend a night too. And she said yeah. Sister-in-law overheard and got mad. She was making snarky comments the rest of breakfast. Opie and boyfriend spends way too much time together. And, "I'm surprised you guys allow her to have boys in her room. You don't know what they're up to in there." She then said she'd stay home instead of going out to keep an eye on my boyfriend and I because we'd be home alone. I didn't think much of it and went about my day. When my boyfriend did come over, we went to my room to hang out. Not even 10 minutes later, she started barging in trying to tell me to wash dishes, asking me random questions and trying to invite herself to hang with us. Eventually, I locked my door because I got annoyed, and crap hit the fan from there. When she tried to come in once again and realized it was locked, she started screaming and banging on the door, yelling at me to open it. When I did, she started yelling at me how her sister wouldn't even be allowed to lock her bedroom door, so I wasn't allowed to. That's when I had enough. I called her delusional and told her I'm not her late sister and she needed to see a therapist because she needs help. She told my parents what I said and they want me to apologize because it's just her big sister instincts kicking in. My sister also wants me to apologize because what I said was heartless. I refused, and they think I'm an insensitive a-hole for it. Now I feel like what I said was probably in the a-hole territory, and I might have been in the wrong. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She does need to see a therapist. Not the a-hole. That's really messed up of her. And you're correct. She does need some therapy or counseling. It doesn't sound like anyone is giving her a neutral perspective here, and just enabling her to project her late sister on you. Is there anyone in your corner, Opie? A relative or a trusted authority figure? This sounds like a lot to go through alone, and I feel like you could use some sensible backup, because you're definitely not out of line here. I don't have anyone other than my boyfriend and friends. Do you have a close relationship with your parents? I used to, but with them always defending what she does, it's taken a toll in our relationship. I know it's not popular opinion, but everyone sucks here, and here's why. 1. Your sister is an a-hole for brushing you off about your annoyance and concern for a sister-in-law. She also sucks for not being a good partner. Your sister-in-law is clearly struggling, and she's blind to it. 2. Your parents suck because they don't have your back when you're clearly uncomfortable with what sister-in-law is doing. 3. You're a soft a-hole just because of how you said she needs help. In heat of the argument, when you tell someone they need therapy, to onlookers and a person on the receiving end, it sounds like an insult rather than concern. Edit. Is it common to get mixed answers? Like, a lot of comments are saying not the a-hole, but in private messages, I'm being told everyone sucks here / you're the a-hole. I'm confused. I'm also being told I was harsh and should apologize, along with being told my reaction was fine and I don't owe an apology. I'm so confused. Do the private messages even count? Maybe they're trolls. I don't know. I keep commenting to people, but I realize not everyone is going to see my replies. I did move out and had to move back because my apartment complex burned down. I'm back on the road to moving out and hope to by December. I know I need to get away, and I'm trying. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my adoptive sister that she's not entitled to anything our grandmother left behind? My sister, Lara, 27 female, was adopted by our parents at 12 years old. She really never bonded to our parents. Lara attended therapy, and my parents showered her with love and attention, but they never managed to have a close relationship. I, 24 male, was the only one with whom Lara was able to open up to. My grandmother, 87 female, was also very fond of Lara. However, she always rejected her affections, and on many occasions, she was rude to my grandmother. Lara went to college, fully paid for by my parents, at 18, and moved away from home. Her housing and transportation was paid for by our parents as well. When she graduated at 22, she cut off all contact with our family. We later found out that her adoptive family contacted her a little after she turned 18, and they kept in touch for the 4 years of college. Lara waited for my parents to finish paying for her university to move in with her biological parents. Obviously, my parents were devastated. With a lot of effort, they managed to get out of their sadness, and life went back to being normal, and we haven't heard from Lara in 5 years. My grandmother recently passed away, and she left an inheritance and will. Somehow, Lara found out about my grandmother's death and appeared at the meeting where the will was to be read. The commotion was so great that the reading of the will was postponed. That happened last week. Lara left her contact information with my grandmother's attorney. Today was the reading of my grandma's will, and Lara was there, since she is still legally the daughter of my parents and the lawyer did not want to read my grandmother's will without her. My grandma left Lara one of her rings of average value and an amount of approximately $10. Compared to what she left me or my cousins, it's nothing. Lara was furious. She threw a tantrum and said that surely my parents had manipulated my grandmother to make me leave nothing for her. At this point, my dad was crying. I got angry, and I told her that she had no right to anything that my grandmother left, because she was the one who cut off contact, not us. I also called her some not very pretty names. Lara called me an a-hole and left the place. Now my mother is mad at me because she thinks this was our chance to talk to Lara again and reestablish a relationship with her, and that I ruined that opportunity. Not the a-hole. Also, your parents are wrong. Lara wasn't there to reconnect. She was only there for the money. Opie's mom is absolutely blinded by her own desperation in order not to see the glaring sign Lara's holding that says, "I still don't care about any of you." It's absolutely crazy to me. Lara almost spent more time out of Opie's life than in it. From 12 to 18, they had regular contact. The next to nothing from 18 to 22, and no contact for the last 5 years. Not a day home. Lara went off and cut contact for 5 years after your parents finished paying off her university fees. And now she's throwing a tantrum because she thinks she's entitled to your deceased grandmother's stuff? She's entitled and sounds like a giant a-hole. She did you a favor when she cut contact, and she should have stayed away. Your parents are still grieving. And Lara was a massive a-hole to show up when they were grieving the loss of your grandmother, and potentially try to take advantage of that emotional state. Also, $10 is about all I would have left her to just to stop her contesting the will. But if that wasn't an issue, I'd say that $10 is maybe $10 too much.